All right. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome
Shabbat
to
shalom.
Congregation's Kol Ami ever-narrowing picture of Shabbat services. We're trying something new this week now that we've had a couple of weeks of experience working online. We're going to ask Lindsay to lead us musically from her home. That way we have an even smaller circle of people who, even though we maintain social distance, we don't have to come in contact with each other. And so that's what we're doing this evening. And I hope everyone is doing well. So my great three questions to all my Kolamites are you healthy? Are you comfortable? And are you coping? So the first thing I would say to everybody is, if one of those three things, you're not being able to do those three things, give me a call. You know how to reach me. I want to check in. In the meantime, however, we're together as a community. We have an online virtual minion, and the rest of you, we're just delighted that you're there with us. And if we happen to have any strays who've joined us, people coming from outside of our community, we're delighted to be able to spend the time with you. So we're going to begin by giving a verbal cue to Lindsay that we're going to start with a nigun.
And if anybody has trouble hearing me or the piano, or I'm too loud or something like that, just find a way to let me know. La la la
So we begin this week, as we do every week, with some good and blessing. I just have a few this week. I'm going to begin with my exceptional encounter today. In planning for the fact that we're all going to be separated from each other, we've set up the Takeout Seder Plate program, where we're going to offer a takeout container full of the 6 things that you will need for your Seder plate. And a number of you have signed up for that. And the first thing I had to do to make that a reality was come up with takeout containers. And so I put a little notice on Facebook and I asked, how do I find these containers? And someone posted one suggestion, someone posted another. And then someone from the Summit Club, Paul Stone, came online and said, we have them. I'll donate them. The Summit Club will give them to us. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. So this afternoon I came to Temple, and there waiting us was 100 containers for takeout. So we're able to provide a Seder plate for anybody and everybody in the congregation who needs it. So in addition to mine, I want to report that Meredith Nuria says that Art was able to see the eye doctor right away for a retinal tear to be repaired by laser, and he has time off from work to let it heal. This is the second one, so he knew what to expect, which was made it a little less stressful. So we're thrilled to hear that he's gotten rapid treatment, and we're hoping he's going to have a refuah shlema, a complete recovery. Alyssa Dukar reports that today she is celebrating her 3rd anniversary with Toyota. And beyond that, the kiddos cleaned the pantry this week, and Morgan led her first live stream sing-along for the Kol Ami children. We are grateful to her. We're happy about your pantry, and we love having Toyota in North Texas. So what's not to rejoice in all of that? And then finally, Rebecca Boardman wants us to know that after the initial crisis of Maury being taken into the hospital and placed in ICU, she writes, "My husband is still alive," keeping the bar very low. But I actually heard from her that he's improving. So we're delighted to hear that that has not turned into something worse, or the worst we could imagine. As for birthdays this past week, we want to think of B. Bender. Happy birthday, B. And Alex Koenig and Rachel Leonard and Richard Polikoff and Carrie Roberts, wherever she may be, and James Ulanovsky. Thank you, doctor, for everything you're doing. And Reed Wisniewski, forgive me, Reed, who I know this must be awkward for you to have your birthday under these circumstances, but we want to wish a happy birthday to all of you. We also want to recognize the anniversaries of Shai Mansouri and Diana Castro, Dennis and Bobby Gerson, Josh and Deborah Gelman, and Dennis and Lori Applebaum. Mazel tov to all of you. May you have sweet New Year's in the years ahead. So now it's time for us to begin with the Seder of Shabbat, to kindle the lights of Shabbat. And I brought a suitable figure in order to be able to do this that I don't have to maintain social distance from, my wife, Robin. Robin will kindle the Shabbat lights for us. If you're using our service online, it's on page 1.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is a symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light.
The version never works the first time.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Praised are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights. May God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace.
Amen. And the only thing as brilliant as our Shabbat lights is my brilliant wife. Thank you, my dear. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are also going to go on to now do Kiddush. And once again, I cue Lindsay. Lindsay, I think they would rather listen to you than listen to me. Would you lead us in Kiddush?
Got my wine cup and everything. All right. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hadafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava u'ratzon hinhilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tehillah למקראי קודש, זהר ליציאת מצרים, כי
באנו
בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה ורצון הנהלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim. Of course, all the wise children at Kol Ami already had wine in front of them for that moment. But the rest of you, if you want to rush away for a moment to get some, we don't mind. We're going to begin our service with Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of Sabbath, with Psalm 95, Lechuna Ranina, and again, I cue our soloist.
Wait. Oh, there we go. You unmuted me. Thank you.
Joyously to Adonai and raise a shout to our rock and our Redeemer. Come, let us enter God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is supreme, the sovereign over all beings. We're going to continue now with Psalm 97, page 4, if you have the Siddur. Or Zoruach leTzadik Lishrei Lev Simcha. Adonai reigns. Let the land exalt and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds surround God. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. And God's lightning illumines the world. Light is sown for the righteous, radiant for the upright. O you who are righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. We're going to go on to Psalm 29. Lindsay?
Oh, my phone stopped. Give me a second. I am so sorry.
Turn now to Lecha Dodi. Of course, for those of us in the synagogue, we orient ourselves towards an open door. Of those of you who are able to rise and wish to do so in your homes, you turn towards the west. You don't have to worry about any particular door. So we continue with Lecha Dodi on page 7.
Lecha Dodi
הילולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. להודותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. להודותי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. Rabbi,
Your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a harp, with voice and lyre in unison. Sadiq katamar yifrach, the ke'erez v'lebanon yizgeh, and the righteous they shall bloom like a palm. They shall thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Lindsay, we're going to pick up now with Hatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמא יברא הילותי וימיך מלכותי.
וחי
לכל וביום בכל ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עליה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי כל שבריהו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונהמתה לאמירה ועלמה ואמרו amen.
As you are able and comfortable, please rise for the Baruch Hu. Ma'ariv Aravim. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, whose presence fills the world and whose word makes evening fall. God opens the gates of heaven and in wisdom makes time pass and seasons change. The stars in the sky move according to God's will. Adonai of hosts is the creator of day and night, causing day and night to alternate. May God govern us always to the end of time. Praised are you, Adonai, who makes evening fall. Ahavat Olam. Unending, too, is your love for your people, the house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts you've taught us. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. And then your love shall never depart from our hearts. Blessed is Adonai, who loves the people Israel. We continue now with the Shema. Is Lindsay, we're doing the Shema.
That's what she was singing.
Was she singing? I misunderstood it? Okay, I have bad ears. All right,
Yeah,
Lindsay,
that's the
forgive me. Continue now with the Via Hafta.
Okay.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצא לך היום על לבביך ושיננת לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך ושרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות להם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
We continue now with Emet Be'emunah, acknowledging God as our help and our Redeemer. True and enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good and beautiful is this eternal teaching. This truth we hold to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai, our God, you redeemed us from Egypt, and you set us free from the house of bondage. For this, the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you. Living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud, raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out. All praise to God Most High, source of blessing. So like Moses and Israel, we sing this song of rejoicing, the Micha Mocha. This is my God, they proclaimed. Adonai will reign forever. And now we come to the prayer that probably marks this time in our lives, this year in our lives, more than any other, the Hashkivenu, in which we ask God's protection throughout the night and through the morning. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Grant that this night we lie down in peace, Adonai, our God, and raise us up, O sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. We praise you, Adonai, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. We continue now with the tefillah, and Lindsay will be providing the vocal leadership through the next three prayers. Please rise.
Adonai, שפתי תפתחו פי.
Did we lose it?
Lost like everything.
Lost
Wait,
everything.
I was muted there for a second. I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
Oh, she muted herself. Okay.
Connection is
You
unstable.
want to start over?
Yes, I'll just start over. I'm sorry.
אדוני, שפתי תפתחו פי, אגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, העליון, בונה חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, זוהר עשה אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאונה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, ולחוזר מושיע מגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן עליו וצרפתיו. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, נהי הכל אתה רב והושיע. מהקל הרים בחסד, נהי הכל לרבים רבים. תומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום עיניו, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצליח ישועה, למען אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום והיום הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
If you've been standing, you're welcome to sit down again. We're going to continue by celebrating Shabbat with Vishamru, which would be on the page, top of page 21, if you have your Siddur. Lindsay?
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות מדינת עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות מדינת עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות מדינת עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני אבות ויינפש, שבת ויינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות המליט עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות המליט עולם.
Great to say, we ask God's favor. Adonai, our God, show favor towards your people Israel and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people always be acceptable, for you alone do we hold in reverence. And we want to give thanks to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. So we thank you and we recite your praises. Let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. We're going to close out our section, of course, with Shalom Rav, asking for abundant peace and tranquility for all of us and for our nation and for the world. And then we're going to take a few moments that we are allowed to reflect and pray with God by ourselves.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיני הנמרי את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים
Lindsay, would you close us out with Oseh Shalom?
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
So I think it was T.S. Eliot who wrote that April is the cruelest month. And I have to say, there's every sign this year that he's absolutely right. So many strange things have been happening, so many sad things, so many deaths, so many tragedies, and such bizarre behavior. I don't know if you've been aware, but it's been happening in both the Jewish and Christian world that there are these contrarian religious leaders, whether they be rabbis or pastors, who are insisting in gathering together and worshiping. Some of them clearly thinking that gathering together in this way will somehow protect them against the virus. Others simply insisting that a religious obligation overrides any sort of medical consideration they have to done, which of course is completely in defiance of all Jewish tradition. But particularly we are aware here in Texas of the minister down in Houston who decided that he was going to gather 1,000+ congregants week after week, every Sunday. He did that until such time as they actually arrested him in his church, handed him a ticket, took him in, had him bailed, and now he says he's not going to do it anymore. That kind of moment brings to mind something I once heard in Israel, which was, we know for sure the Messiah is coming because he sent his ass ahead of him. All right, as Jon Stewart would say, join me on camera 3. This week, I had a colleague online make a confession. She wrote the following: I made a decision this year. I will observe the mitzvot of eating matzah and not eat bread, pasta, or other chametz, but I'm not going to change my dishes. I'm not going to change my silverware. I'm not going to get rid of all my house, in all of my house, all the food that I can't normally eat during the holiday. I will simply declare it not mine and leave it at that. I will clean up for health as I am doing now every day. And maybe I'll use paper plates sometimes. Maybe I won't. But this year is different from all other years. And if you are being more observant, kol hakavod to you. As for me, I'm tired, I'm anxious, and I'm frightened. To put it another way, in a widely circulated meme going around the Jewish internet, there's a meme that says basically, it's okay if you have a shvach seder. Now, what's the word shvach mean? I think you can detect what it means, but in Israel, it's a word that means something like lousy, lame, mediocre. It's okay if your seder and mine are not like the seders of past years or the seders of future years. This year is different from all other years. Why? I'll let you answer that in the tradition of the Passover meal. Look it, we are cut off from our friends, which is annoying, but we are cut off from our friends in need, which is heartbreaking, and our family in need. This is the third week that for me, I can't go and visit many of our sick Colamites. And today it culminated all with a call from a congregant who is on the front lines of medical care, who is now struggling between continuing the necessary and sacred work that he's doing or leaving the state, being at the bedside of his dying mother, and then realizing that in returning to Texas, he will have to go into 2 weeks of quarantine. How do you decide between those two awful choices? This is an impossible situation. And frankly, I was at a loss to offer him any thoughts that were truly comforting. How can you, given the terrible conundrum we face? I listened, but I also realized as I was listening, April truly is the cruelest month. At least it's the cruelest month we've experienced so far. Look, I recently read a piece by an infectious disease specialist. I bet you have too. In the one I read, she tells us that if anyone in a household does something as seemingly innocuous, a minor transgression of simply going out and sneaking off and spending time in the close proximity of a neighbor to get a cup of coffee late at night, you're probably inviting the possibility of transmitting the disease that the virus that is coming to us. If, however, you maintain your close circle with your family, you go out only for necessary shopping, you maintain social distance while you're out there, the virus gets contained just as we are contained. It's not quite that simple, but it's pretty close. All right? The important lesson here is that each of us must stop thinking about ourselves as individuals. As this epidemiologist writes, you should perceive your entire family to function as a single individual unit. If one person puts themselves at risk, everyone in the unit is putting itself at risk. So we're going to celebrate a Shvach Seder this year. It's not going to be that great. Our lame Passover, we'll call it, rather than our lamb Passover. We will read with a very small circle of relatives. And we will read things like, behold, I send you Elijah the prophet. Now, the word in Hebrew here, when you say you, is in the plural, because in our Haggadah, almost everything is in the plural. It's not I, it's we, it's not you, it's y'all, it's the Zoom gallery view. And that is the nature of our practice. And plural runs through all of our prayers throughout the Haggadah. The Magid, the story begins, let all who are hungry come and eat, even though this year we're not going to be able to host guests. And then we come to the 4 questions. On all other nights, we may eat both leavened bread and matzah. On this night, we eat only matzah. And then we are obligated to tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Text after text, it keeps coming to the same thing. It talks about we. Eventually, we arrive at the 4 children, which I'm sorry to say, some of us will have present and some of us won't. It's a Shvach Seder. It's really lame. But then we come to the verse from the Torah that is the subject of pages of Haggadah commentary, which is, an Aramean tried to destroy my father. And so my father went down into Egypt and sojourned there with meager numbers, and there he became a great and populous nation. In this verse, it begins with an individual, my father, and it ends with a plural, a great and populous nation. That's perhaps the key to what we should be thinking about in our Shvach Seder. And that is that we individually are responsible to ensure that we continue to grow as a great nation. And later we recite Dayenu. It would have been enough for us. A Shvach Seder this year is Dayenu. It's enough for us. We have to embrace the Dayenu. Our little celebrations, our sad little celebrations, these will be enough for us this time. Remember, the wicked child is criticized specifically for separating himself or herself from the needs of the community. When the text says in the singular, in every generation, one is required to see oneself as if he has gone out of Egypt, it's because the Haggadah is trying to remind us to connect ourselves individually to our generation, to those who went before us. Not only our ancestors were redeemed by the Holy One, but through their collective experience, we were redeemed also. The infectious disease specialist I was reading teaches us something that Jews should already know, that the entire struggle for our success, whether it be from slavery or the coronavirus, requires us to see ourselves as one community. If we cannot get together, we can still, our minds enter into the world of the Haggadah, and we will be redeemed because we are together apart. The paradox of this cruel April is that we have to act together by staying separate. This will be our unity for this year. This is our togetherness for now. This Passover by connecting with our friends, our extended family, and our temple by the miracle of online communication rather than in person, face to face. In doing that, by separating ourselves, we act in unity and we save lives. We may not be able to fulfill the joy and honor of inviting guests to our mitzvah, but in doing so, we are fulfilling another mitzvah, the mitzvah of pekuach nefesh, of protecting and sustaining life. And so not only this year are we redeemed, but by doing little or nothing, we also become redeemers. We become saviors of others. Our ancestors learned this lesson at the final and terrible plague in what was, I am sure, a very schwach Seder. The very first Seder was probably a terrible Seder, right? One that took a lot of Egyptian lives. They made their sacrifices, they slaughtered their animal, they put the blood on their houses, and then what did they do? They went into self-imposed quarantine, and they stayed that way. You would expect now to see that what we experienced in the first Seder, we're reenacting in this Seder. We have to do what we must in order that this Mashgiach, this destroyer of our generation, passes over our households and all the households of America. There are those of us who have to go out, and God bless them, stockers and cashiers who keep provisions in our grocery stores, public safety officials and police officers who watch over us, and all the medical personnel who care for the sick, for the many, many rising numbers who are sick. We owe all of them our thanks and praise. We want to honor them because their work is heroic. The rest of us, however, also have a job to do. We need to sit on our couch. We need to prop our elbow up on that little pillow, just like we're supposed to at the Seder, and sit back and take it. It's a job we need to take seriously in order to keep our fellows whole. To stay together, we got to stay apart. For those of us who aren't on the front lines, our little small bit of heroism for our community is simply to stand and wait. But it also has been said, those also serve who stand and wait. It is right this Pesach that we think of the we instead of the I. To do that, we have to endure this one Shvach Seder so that more people can enjoy more Seders in the future. When we do this, if we are obedient to this and we accept the sadness of this case in order to plan for joy in the future, then we lay the groundwork for redemption for all of us. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So it's time for our announcements. Do I have any announcements? Becky is going to give our announcements, so I'm going to leave the screen.
And move to the side. Good evening. Welcome to what is becoming our new normal. I will tell you, I find it different and intriguing, and I wish I were with all of you this evening for sure. And as we enter this, I have lost count of how many days of captivity in my home with my children and animals and husband. I hope you've had a safe week, a healthy week, and maybe some laughter. At our house, there were a few tears. I will admit they were my own when I heard that school was still going to be out until at least May 4th. But as Rabbi just said, this is the time we think of we instead of I. So we bring you our services online, and then tomorrow we're trying something new. We're going to do our Havdalah service at 7:30. You'll want to tune in on time because that's a very short service, but it's really pretty and always moving. So we'll be doing that for the next several Saturdays. Also, terribly excited. I know the kids may not be, but online religious school begins this Sunday, September 5th. Please, please, please check the website. We have compressed the times. We have compressed the grades. I want to thank the parents for their patience for us to get this back up and going. And I want to thank the teachers for their creativity and their flexibility in shortening down these sessions so that our kids can continue to learn throughout the rest of the school year. Also, as Rabbi said, next Thursday, April 9th at, I lost the time because I didn't write it down on my paper, we will be doing our virtual Seder. So please join us for that. I think it will be a very lovely and different way to go this year. Hopefully it won't be a lousy Seder, but a different Seder. And we can always say, we know now why this night was different from every other night for hopefully the rest of our lives. Also, on April 18th at 7:30, we'll be doing Havdalah plus the Yom HaShoah storytellers will be doing their pieces that evening. It should be a really moving evening, as well as these folks who prepared their stories over the last several weeks with the aid of Dr. Deborah Fripp to tell their stories. So please, please, please keep checking the website for updates and information. It is the most current place to get data and links. Or also, as we see helpful links, they will go up on there for informational resources or other things, so that you have a one-stop shop, hopefully. And if you haven't already seen it yet, Rabbi's DIY mezuzah making and placement was quite the interesting video. I'll just leave it at that. And with that, I'll turn it back to Rabbi to do Mishabera.
And you might know the Passover Seder is at 6:30.
Our Passover Seder, our broadcast, I can't say the word, it's so old fashioned. Our online Passover Seder will be at 6:30. Second night, that's right. So now is the time that we should include in our prayers thoughts for all those people who are ailing, whether they're ailing in body or ailing in spirit. Of course, we have an entire nation that is ailing, and so we want to include all those who are afflicted in our prayers, but we especially want to think of those individuals connected to our community. We're thinking, may the one who blessed our ancestors also bless Anna Binder, Sid Binder, Maury Boardman, Jerry Cagle, Dave Cook, Harry Enneman, Michelle Griffith, Judy Horowitz, Deb Kaufman, Alex Koenig, Lauren Koenig, Bill Lee, Sandy Lenzner, Judy Morisak, Don Neal, Art Neria, Bruce Nidrich, yeah, I think that's right. Forgive me if I got that wrong. And Adrian Sandler, Sybil Paley, and also Ben Weisbard. If you have someone that you want to include in those prayers, please say them in your heart or say them out loud. And we're going to just take a moment to allow you to do that. And then we're going to continue with Mishabera, which will appear on page 40 if you have your Siddur.
Strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishabera imotenu kol Avraham. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And now it's time for us to close out our service. I invite you to turn to page 82. Page 82, where we're going to continue the Aleinu. I'm going to go up to the Ark. Robin can come with me. Come on, Robin.
עלינו לשבח לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומולים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומשל יברך שמיים ושינתו זו בגוהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אלוהינו אמת וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום ושכחת לבביך, אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אליו.
ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד. The leaves fall. Fall is from afar. They fall with slow and lingering descent. And in the night, the heavy earth too falls from out of the stars into the solitude. And thus all must fall. This hand of mine must fall, and lo, the other one too. It is the law. But there is one who holds the falling infinitely softly in his hand, in her hands. And so we take time now to recall with love and gratitude the names of those whom we've lost recently, as well as those whose anniversaries of death occurs this week. We begin with Shiva. We have not been informed in the congregation of any deaths in the past week, but if there is one that you are aware of, speak the name out loud and we will include them in our prayers. For Shloshim, we're thinking of Allison Beckholt, the mother of Matt Polikoff, and Marilyn Jacobs, the mother of Gary Jacobs. Again, if you have a name, think of it in your heart or speak it out loud. And if you want it added for next week, please let Bob know. And then finally, we want to honor the yard sites, the anniversaries of death for those who have died at this season in years past. We think of John Elfont, Louis Levy, Bonnabelle Nichols, Edna Paget, Sue Potash, Sylvia Reddish, Cecilia Rubin, Harry Rubin, Doris Weinberg, and Molly Willinkin. Is there anyone else? No, of course, I can't ask that question and expect to get an answer. If you have the name of anyone else in your heart or on your lips, please share them. And that will take a moment here, and then we'll rise and recite Kaddish on page 85. We begin Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, bagalal uv'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnafseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, v'damiran v'imro v'imru amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Mim Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all of those who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. So I was thinking about some of the other things that are going to be strange for our Seder. We will, this year, as every year, open the door for Elijah. But unlike every other year, it's probably a good thing if he doesn't show up. What can we do? So instead, maybe we should think of it this way. Instead of the idea that Elijah will come and bring redemption, maybe we should imagine that we're opening the door to take on the mantle of Elijah, that each of us must take Elijah into ourselves and do the things that he would do under these circumstances. Heal the sick, support the weak, the unemployed, the poor, sustain all people, speak truth to power, do all the things that we know Elijah taught us in his brief stint on this world. So may we all become Elijah this year and carry forward his great teachings and his great efforts. And that's how we're going to close tonight. We're going to close singing Eliyahu HaNavi. You won't have the text in front of you. I hope most of you know it. But we're going to be thinking about Elijah the prophet as we enter into this season of Pesach.
Eliyahu HaNavi, Eliyahu HaTishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu HaGiladi, Bimena le'alenu, Ya'alon Eleinu, Im Mashiach ben David, Im Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu HaNavi, Eliyahu HaTishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu HaGiladi.
Av HaRachamim, we ask that you show compassion on us, on our nation, and on the world at this time. May we be like Elijah the prophet, that we might live and not die. And just as he rode on a fiery chariot, may we use our glowing chariots of electronics to have a Merkavah, a sacred ride towards redemption. May we advance the cause of a better world at this time of troubles. And may we fulfill all the things that God has asked of us to be his partners in building up and not destroying the world, in healing and bringing peace to the hearts of all around us. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Minion. Thank you. Special thanks to everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Bob.
Good night.
Bye.
Hey,
Good luck,
Bye.
everybody.
it's Casey.
Yeah,
A song you did on Facebook.
you saw what?
So you played the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, we played Foo Fighters on Facebook. That's true. Send
Is it too late to
requests.
order a Seder plate?
I love that you can go to, you're
What?
like in the sky, you know, you're in the newsroom, you've got the desk, and you're just queuing these ones. We need to get the tubas in there.
Yeah, we do.
I think maybe they can do.
I love y'all, but I'm exiting because it's late and I'm tired.
Right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, kids.
They requested tubas for next week.
Oh, tubas for next week in addition to matzah making, right? You can do that, right?
Not on Shabbos.
Yeah, the rabbi said that
Gotta
y'all need
find
to
me.
sign next week.
Is it too late to order a Seder plate?
For you, probably not.
No, I haven't taken it down yet. Lindsay, I won't take it down until I get home, so you got an hour or so.
All right,
Chop,
that
chop.
sounds great. And do we need delivery drivers, or do you guys have that covered?
What's that?
I don't
We
know
got
if
it covered.
you need drivers for the
Sounds good.
When we are have the full list of people, most of them are invited to come and pick them up at the synagogue at a certain time. They'll be left out front. However, I'm sure there will be a couple of people who are not able to come, and I was planning to drive them to them, and if I could have some other volunteers to help me, that would be great.
I can volunteer.
Awesome.
Next year, Rachel could. Ha ha.
Yes, you can.
So scary.
Even now.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.